In moments of anger, we might act impulsively and later deeply regret our actions. However, one female tourist took this to an extreme when she threw her dog into the water out of frustration over its persistent disturbance. To make matters worse, the water was infested with sharks. Faced with the immediate consequences of her actions, did she wait for lifeguards to intervene, or did she attempt to rescue her dog herself? Let's find out what happened next. The boat bobbed gently on the calm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, its white hull contrasting sharply with the deep blue of the sea. The sun hung high, casting a golden glow that danced across the surface. Carla, standing at the helm, glanced at her dog, a small brown terrier named Max, who was barking incessantly at the edge of the boat. The noise was grating and Carla's patience was wearing thin. Max had been a constant companion, loyal and affectionate, but today, the incessant barking was too much. Carla had tried everything to calm him down. Treats, toys, gentle reprimands, but nothing worked. The dog's agitation seemed to heighten her frustration, creating a vicious cycle of irritation. With every yelp and whine, her resolve hardened. In a moment of reckless anger, Carla's patience snapped. Her face flushed with a mixture of rage and regret. She made a decision she would come to regret deeply. Without considering the full implications of her actions, Carla scooped up Max and, in a motion driven by frustration rather than logic, hurled him overboard. The splash that followed was immediate and loud, breaking the serene surface of the water. The instant Max hit the water, the sea's tranquility turned into a scene of impending dread. The splash attracted the attention of a group of sharks that had been circling the boat, their fins slicing through the water with predatory grace. Carla's heart lurched as she saw the fins moving closer, their menacing shapes cutting a path toward the splashing water where Max had landed. Horror washed over Carla as she watched the sharks close in on her small dog. The realization of her reckless decision hit her like a cold wave. Panic surged through her veins. Without thinking, she threw aside her fears and leaped into the water, her body hitting the sea with a jarring splash. Her mind was a frenzy of guilt and fear as she swam towards Max, who was paddling frantically, his small legs working hard to stay afloat. Sensing the disturbance, the sharks increased their pace. Their presence was a haunting reminder of the danger lurking beneath the surface. Carla's strokes were powerful but panicked, her breaths coming in ragged gasps as she approached Max. The water around her was frothy with churned-up waves and her frantic movements. Max's eyes were wide with terror as he struggled to stay afloat. Carla reached him just as the first shark's massive jaws snapped near him, the sharp teeth glinting ominously. Her heart raced, the proximity of the predator heightening her desperation. With every ounce of strength, Carla pushed Max ahead of her, guiding him toward the boat. Her kicks were erratic but forceful as she tried to fend off the sharks. She used her hands and feet to splash and create a barrier between the predators and her precious dog. Attracted by the commotion, the sharks were relentless. They circled with increasing aggression, their sleek bodies cutting through the water with unsettling precision. Carla's fear was palpable. She could feel their presence all too closely. Every moment felt like an eternity as she fought both the water and the predators. Her kicks were becoming less effective, her energy waning under the strain. The boat loomed ahead, its safety seeming both near and impossibly distant. Carla's friend Derek was on the deck, his eyes wide with horror as he saw the unfolding chaos. With adrenaline fueling her final burst of energy, Carla pushed Max towards the boat, her hands trembling as she signaled Derek for help. Derek, seizing the urgency of the moment, grabbed a rope and leaned over the edge of the boat, his movements swift and determined. Carla's struggle reached a peak of desperation. A shark's jaws snapped just inches from her leg, the rush of water from its bite sending a shiver down her spine. The proximity of the predator was a stark reminder of how close she was to disaster. With a final, Herculean effort, Carla managed to push Max up towards Derek. Her friend reached down, grabbed the small dog, and hauled him to safety with a swift pull. The relief on Derek's face was immediate, but Carla's ordeal was far from over. As Max was pulled aboard, Carla was left in the water exhausted and gasping. Her limbs felt leaden, her strength nearly spent. The sharks were still circling, their dark forms creating a barrier between her and safety. With every ounce of her remaining strength, Carla struggled to make her way towards the boat. Her movements were slow, her body feeling the weight of the fear and fatigue that had taken hold of her. Derek, realizing Carla was still in danger, acted quickly. He threw down a rope and extended a hand, his face etched with a mix of urgency and concern. Carla grabbed the rope, her fingers slipping as she fought against the fatigue and the pull of the water. Derek pulled her with determined effort, the rope digging into her hands as she climbed. The final moments were a blur of effort and relief as Carla was hauled back onto the deck. Collapsing onto the boat, Carla lay there, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The reality of what had transpired settled heavily upon her. Max, now safe and shaken, was being comforted by Derek, his small body trembling. Carla's hands and legs were scraped and bruised, her heart still racing from the adrenaline and fear. The near disaster had left her physically and emotionally drained. As Carla sat on the deck, wrapped in a blanket, her gaze fixed on the horizon, the total weight of her recklessness and the danger she had narrowly avoided was clear. The close call had been a brutal reminder of the unpredictable and often dangerous nature of the sea. The ordeal had shaken her to her core, leaving her with a deep sense of gratitude for the safety of her dog and herself, and a reminder of how a moment of anger could lead to unforeseen and life-threatening consequences. The morning sun filtered through the Great Barrier Reef as Lucas descended into the water, casting a kaleidoscope of light that danced across the vibrant corals. As Lucas floated effortlessly, the world above seemed a distant memory, and he was wholly immersed in this breathtaking underwater realm. Lucas had studied the reef's ecosystem for years, and now, experiencing it firsthand was exhilarating. Time slipped away as he ventured deeper into this mesmerizing world. An experienced snorkeler, Lucas was accustomed to the occasional curious fish and the rare sight of larger creatures. He knew to respect marine life and its delicate balance. However, the reef, despite its apparent peace, held its dangers. Navigating a narrow passage between two large coral formations, Lucas noticed a subtle shift in the water. A small reef shark, about 6 feet long, appeared, its sleek body cutting through the water with purpose. While the shark's presence was fascinating, it also signaled an imminent threat. The shark, likely a juvenile but still formidable, began to exhibit deliberate, tense movements as it approached Lucas. Lucas, absorbed in the moment, moved closer to get a better view, inadvertently encroaching on the shark's territory. The shark's behavior shifted, its body tensed, and its movements became sharper. As Lucas hovered near the shark, it turned its head, its eyes narrowing in assessment. In an instant, the shark closed the distance, and before Lucas could react, its jaws clamped down on his arm. The initial pain was searing, a shock that radiated through his entire body. He looked down in horror at the shark's teeth embedded in his flesh, blood mingling with the surrounding water. Panicked, Lucas thrashed wildly, trying to dislodge the shark. His frantic movements only tightened the shark's grip, intensifying the pain. The vibrant colors of the reef were overshadowed by the red cloud of blood trailing behind him. Struggling to push the shark away, Lucas found the water thick and resistant, each movement slow and difficult. His heart raced, and his breathing grew erratic as the once beautiful reef turned into a dangerous trap. The shark's grip remained unyielding, its sharp and relentless teeth cut deeper with every movement. Lucas's arm felt as if it were on fire, the searing pain blending with a profound sense of dread. The blood that stained the water could attract other predators, and the thought of a more dangerous encounter added to his terror. He knew he had to escape, but the struggle to free himself from the shark's jaws was an arduous battle. With every ounce of strength left, Lucas fought against the shark's tenacity. He twisted and turned, trying to dislodge the creature from his arm. The struggle seemed eternal, each second stretching into what felt like hours. The coral formations around him became a chaotic blur as he desperately tried to orient himself. Finally, with a surge of adrenaline, Lucas managed to break free from the shark's grip. The shark, having realized that its attack had failed to subdue its prey, retreated with a swift flick of its tail. It darted away into the depths, leaving Lucas alone in the water, his arm a throbbing, bloody mess. The immediate danger had passed, but Lucas's situation was far from safe. He looked around, his vision clouded by the blood in the water. The reef, which had seemed so inviting moments before, now felt hostile and treacherous. With a grim sense of urgency, Lucas began to make his way towards the surface. His movements were slow and difficult, each stroke of his flipper a painful reminder of his injury. The journey back to the surface was agonizing. Every movement caused waves of pain to shoot through his arm. He could feel the warm blood trickling from his wound, adding a grim sense of urgency to his struggle. The thought of other predators attracted by his blood pushed him to move faster despite the searing pain. Lucas's breath came in ragged gasps as he neared the surface. The sun's rays, once a source of comfort, now seemed distant and unreachable. The water around him grew lighter, and the boat that had brought him to this location came into view. Its presence was a beacon of hope, a sign of safety amidst the chaos. As Lucas finally reached the boat, he clung to the side with his uninjured arm, his body trembling from the exertion and pain. The crew, seeing his distressed state, quickly pulled him aboard. The relief of being out of the water was immense, but the reality of his injury was a sobering sight. His arm was a mess of blood and torn flesh, a grim reminder of the encounter. The crew acted swiftly, administering first aid and preparing to get Lucas to medical attention. The pain was unbearable, but the knowledge that he was out of immediate danger provided some comfort. The wound was treated and the boat began its return journey. The vibrant reef that had once been a source of wonder is now a backdrop to Lucas's harrowing experience. As the boat made its way back to shore, Lucas reflected on the events of the day. The reef, with all its beauty, had revealed a darker side, a reminder of the unpredictable nature of the ocean. His encounter with the reef shark had been a stark lesson in the delicate balance between curiosity and caution. The pain and fear he had experienced were a testament to the raw power of nature and the respect it demanded. Lucas's injury required further treatment, and he would carry the physical and emotional scars of the encounter for years to come. The experience left him with a profound respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. The Great Barrier Reef, with all its beauty, had shown him that the allure of the underwater world was matched by its inherent dangers. It was a harsh but invaluable lesson, one that would forever shape his relationship with the ocean. The underwater environment was eerily still, broken only by the occasional exhale of air. Sarah was diving in a secluded spot off the coast of Hawaii, known for its intricate network of underwater caves and rich marine life. Her excitement was palpable as she glided through the clear water, surrounded by a vibrant blend of coral and aquatic flora. The cave system she explored was a labyrinth of narrow passages and vast chambers, its walls adorned with colorful anemones clinging to the rocks. Sarah moved cautiously, deliberately avoiding any disturbance to the delicate ecosystem. Her scuba gear provided a steady oxygen supply, and she monitored her air gauge closely, mindful of the need to return to the surface in time. Navigating a particularly narrow section, Sarah's flashlight beam caught the glint of something hidden among the rocks. Adjusting her position for a clearer view, she discovered a large moray eel coiled in the shadows. Its thick, segmented body and row of sharp, barely visible teeth made it an imposing presence. The eel's dark, watchful eyes seemed to track her every move. Despite her excitement, Sarah's heart raced with concern. Moray eels can be aggressive when threatened, and she knew the risks. Her breathing was steady as she tried to remain calm, aware that sudden movements might provoke the creature. The eel's tension grew as Sarah slowly attempted to back away, but the narrow passage restricted her movement. As she carefully maneuvered, the eel reacted. It darted forward with surprising speed, its sleek body a blur against the dark rock. Sarah's instincts surged as the eel's mouth opened wide, displaying its menacing teeth. It lunged, closing its powerful jaws around Sarah's leg with a jarring, searing pain. The bite was intense, the pressure of the eel's grip a stark contrast to the otherwise cool, enveloping water. Sarah's first reaction was to try to pull away, but the eel's grip was unyielding. She twisted her leg, trying to dislodge the eel, but it held fast. The pain intensified with each movement, and her vision blurred slightly as her body's stress response kicked in. Her mind raced through the emergency protocols she had learned. But at the moment, everything felt chaotic and disorienting. Desperation fueled her actions as she reached for her diving knife, strapped securely to her thigh. She fumbled with the knife, the small compartment of her diving suit making it challenging to maneuver. Finally, she managed to draw the knife and, with a trembling hand, brought it down toward the eel. The blade cut through the water with precision, aimed directly at the eel's body. The first stab made contact, but the eel's grip didn't falter. Sarah felt a surge of frustration as the eel's powerful jaws continued to press against her leg. The wound was deep, and the pain radiated through her limb, mingling with the cold, numbing sensation of the surrounding water. Her breathing was ragged. Each inhale was a struggle as the limited air supply in her tank became a pressing concern. In a fierce effort, Sarah stabbed the eel repeatedly, each strike a desperate plea for release. The struggle between her and the eel grew more intense, the water around them becoming murky with the churned-up sediment. Her movements were frantic, driven by a primal urge to escape the clutches of the dangerous creature. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts about the dwindling air supply, the pain in her leg, and the urgent need to find safety. The eel, feeling the increasing pressure and pain from Sarah's attacks, finally released its grip, its body writhing away. For a brief moment, Sarah was free, but the relief was fleeting. Her leg throbbed with an unbearable intensity. The bite wounds were a stark reminder of the encounter. Blood mingled with the water, creating a cloud around her as she tried to assess the damage and regain her composure. With the eel retreating into the cave's dark crevices, Sarah took advantage of the brief respite to swim toward the cave's exit. The narrow passage was still a challenge, but she focused on moving steadily, her mind racing with the urgency of the situation. Each stroke was a struggle against the increasing pain and the growing sense of exhaustion. The water seemed to press against her with a heavier weight as she swam, her leg throbbing with every movement. Her air gauge showed a critical level, the needle inching toward empty. Panic crept into her thoughts, but she fought to keep it at bay, concentrating on the need to reach the surface before her oxygen ran out. As she emerged from the cave and into the open water, the pressure of the situation began to lift, though the pain in her leg was still intense. The surface seemed almost blindingly bright compared to the dim light of the cave, and Sarah oriented herself toward the boat anchored nearby. Each stroke toward the boat felt like an eternity, her energy waning with every movement. The boat loomed closer, a beacon of safety amidst the vast expanse of ocean. Sarah could see the faint figures of her fellow divers on board, their attention focused on their tasks. With a final burst of strength, she reached the boat, her arms weakly grasping the ladder. The pain in her leg was a relentless reminder of the ordeal, but the sight of the vessel and the reassurance of its presence brought a measure of relief. The climb up the ladder was arduous, her leg throbbing with every step. Her fellow divers quickly noticed her distress, their faces a mix of concern and surprise as they helped her aboard. The captain called for emergency assistance, and Sarah was carefully laid down on the deck, her leg elevated to minimize further bleeding. The boat's crew worked swiftly, providing first aid and preparing for the arrival of medical professionals. Sarah's mind was a blur of pain and exhaustion, but the knowledge that she was safe and receiving help provided some comfort. The ordeal had left her physically and emotionally drained, but it also offered a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of underwater exploration. As the boat made its way back to shore, Sarah's thoughts drifted to the experience she had just endured. The encounter with the moray eel had been a harrowing reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface, even in the most beautiful and serene environments. The vivid memory of the eel's bite, the pain and the struggle for survival would remain with her as a testament to the fragility and unpredictability of life beneath the waves. The leg injury was severe, and the healing process would be long and challenging. Yet the experience had also deepened her respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. Sarah's encounter with the moray eel was a stark reminder of the balance between exploration and caution, a lesson learned most intensely and unforgettably. The sun cast a golden sheen over the serene lake in East Africa, its warm rays creating a mirror-like surface that reflected the lush vegetation surrounding the water. Peter, a seasoned traveler with an adventurous spirit, had spent the better part of the morning exploring the idyllic landscape. The heat of the day had driven him to seek solace in the cool embrace of the lake. As he waded into the refreshing water, the contrast between the searing heat and the lake's crisp chill was invigorating. The lake's calm appearance belied its hidden dangers. While Peter swam leisurely, enjoying the isolation and tranquility, he was unaware of the predator lurking beneath the surface. The formidable Nile crocodile had long made the lake its home. Its stealth and patience were legendary, perfectly adapted to its role as an apex predator in this watery realm. Peter's strokes were rhythmic and smooth, his body cutting through the water with ease. He ventured further from the shore, drawn by the allure of the lake's expansive openness. The surrounding dense and verdant vegetation created a natural amphitheater that seemed to frame the scene in a serene yet deceptive beauty. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of water against Peter's body and the occasional call of a distant bird. Beneath the tranquil surface, the crocodile's senses were acutely attuned to any disturbance. Its eyes, barely breaking the water's surface, tracked Peter's movements with calculated precision. The crocodile's powerful body lay in wait, every muscle coiled in readiness. Its ancient instincts told it that an opportunity was approaching, and it prepared to strike. Without warning, the lake's deceptive calm was shattered. The crocodile surged from below, a burst of raw power and aggression propelling it upward with terrifying speed. Peter's serene swimming was abruptly interrupted as the creature's massive jaws clamped down on his torso. The force was immense, the pressure excruciating, and the shock was immediate. Peter's initial reaction was one of disbelief and panic. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the violent transition from peace to terror. The crocodile's jaws were like a vice, and its strength was overwhelming. The creature's intention was clear: to drag its prey underwater and initiate a death roll, a brutal maneuver designed to disorient and drown. As Peter was pulled beneath the surface, the water closed in around him, the light above fading into murky darkness. The crocodile's powerful body coiled and twisted, its momentum creating a whirlpool that threatened to pull Peter further into the abyss. Every instinct Peter had honed through years of travel and adventure screamed at him to survive. The cold, oppressive water was a stark contrast to the lake's earlier serene facade. He fought desperately, his arms and legs flailing against the crushing force of the crocodile's jaws. The sensation of being trapped in a relentless vice was terrifying. But Peter's will to survive was stronger than the crocodile's grip. His fist struck out, making contact with the crocodile's rough, armored skin. Each punch was a desperate attempt to inflict pain and force the predator to relent. The crocodile, however, was relentless. Its grip was unyielding, and the spinning motion of the death roll only added to the disorientation. Peter's lungs burned for air, the need for oxygen becoming an ever-present, urgent demand. In a final act of sheer willpower, Peter used his feet to push against the crocodile's body. He managed to get a partial but crucial reprieve from the relentless spinning. His hands, now searching frantically, found the crocodile's eyes, vulnerable and sensitive. With fierce determination, Peter gouged at them, his fingers pressing into the soft, protective tissues. The crocodile's reaction was immediate and intuitive. The creature's jaws released their grip momentarily, a reflexive response to the intense pain inflicted on its eyes. The brief cessation of pressure was Peter's chance for survival. Gasping for air, he kicked and paddled furiously, propelling himself upward through the swirling water. His vision was still clouded, and the world above seemed distant and unreachable. But he fought through the disorientation with all the strength he had left. Breaking through the surface, Peter's breath came in ragged, desperate gasps. The lake's once peaceful expanse now seemed like an unforgiving expanse of survival. He could see the distant outline of a boat, its presence a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. The crocodile, though still in pursuit, had been momentarily disoriented by Peter's counterattack. Peter's instinct to move towards the boat was a lifeline, and he swam with all the power he could muster. Each stroke was a battle against the fatigue that threatened to overtake him. His body was battered, and the pain from the crocodile's attack was intense, but the sight of the boat kept him focused. The adrenaline surging through his veins provided a fleeting but vital strength. The ship seemed to inch closer with every stroke, its promise of safety a compelling goal. The crocodile, driven by its primal hunger, pursued relentlessly, its powerful tail propelling it through the water with formidable speed. But Peter's determination was unwavering. He reached the boat, his fingers grasping the edge as he pulled himself up with a final desperate effort. The ship, once a distant hope, was now his sanctuary. The crocodile, its prey now out of reach, submerged back into the depths, its hunger unsatisfied but its chance for a kill thwarted. Peter collapsed onto the boat, his body trembling with exhaustion and shock. The severity of his injuries was evident. The bite marks were deep, and the wounds were bleeding freely. His clothes were torn and his skin was a canvas of bruises and abrasions. The pain was overwhelming, but the relief of having escaped the immediate threat was profound. The boat, once a mere object of distant hope, now provided Peter with a semblance of safety. His breaths came in ragged gasps as he tried to steady himself, the reality of the encounter sinking in. The serene lake, which had seemed so inviting earlier, now held a dark memory of danger and near death. Peter's survival was a testament to his resilience and quick thinking. The encounter with the Nile crocodile had been a brutal reminder of nature's raw power and the thin line between tranquility and peril. As he lay on the boat, the lake's calm surface now seemed like a deceptive mask hiding its latent threats. Peter's experience would forever shape his perspective on the serene beauty of nature, reminding him that even the most peaceful settings could harbor hidden dangers. The icy waters off the coast of Norway shimmered in a crystal-clear blue, intensifying Jake's sense of isolation as he paddled his kayak through the serene expanse. The low-hanging sun cast long shadows across the water, bathing the rugged coastline in a warm golden glow. A faint breeze whispered Arctic tales, but Jake's focus was solely on the pod of orcas surfacing in the distance. Their powerful dorsal fins sliced through the water with an elegance that belied their size. Jake had dedicated years to studying marine wildlife, and witnessing orcas in their natural habitat was the pinnacle of his career. He had spent countless hours tracking their migratory patterns and analyzing their behavior from afar, but this close encounter was a rare privilege he intended to savor. The pod moved with synchronized grace, their sleek bodies gliding effortlessly beneath the surface. Jake's heart raced with excitement as he carefully maneuvered his kayak closer, striving to capture the perfect photographs while maintaining a respectful distance. The orcas, aware of his presence, exhibited a mix of curiosity and wariness. They swam in tight formations, their movements fluid and coordinated. The calves, playful and exuberant, occasionally breached the surface, their high-pitched calls echoing through the crisp air. Jake marveled at their social structure and the care the adults showed the young ones. However, amid this captivating spectacle, a large male orca with striking black and white coloration began to exhibit signs of agitation. Unlike the others, this orca circled Jake's kayak with intense focus. Jake's initial concern turned to intrigue. He had read about orcas displaying territorial or defensive behaviors, but this was the first time he was witnessing it firsthand. The male orca's circling grew increasingly aggressive. He swam close to the kayak, retreated, and then returned with greater force. The orca's movements were deliberate, as if gauging the kayak's stability and Jake's reaction. The calm demeanor Jake had maintained began to shift. He was now an active participant in a potentially dangerous interaction. The orca's behavior became more erratic. Each pass bumped the kayak harder, causing it to rock violently. Jake felt the impacts reverberate through the hull, pushing him closer to the edge of stability. He gripped his paddle tightly, knuckles whitening as he struggled to maintain control. The once comforting cold of the water now felt hostile, a stark reminder of the potential danger. Jake tried to steady his racing heart as he adjusted his position, facing the orca. He knew sudden movements might provoke the animal further, but the relentless aggression made composure difficult. The orca's dorsal fin cut through the water more frequently, signaling an increasing focus on Jake's kayak. The animal's cold, unblinking eye was fixed on him with unnerving intensity. Without warning, the orca breached the surface with a powerful thrust. Jake's eyes widened as the massive creature's head emerged, jaws snapping with a force that echoed through the air. The kayak, already compromised by the orca's previous bumps, was struck with a violent force. The impact was jarring, and Jake was thrown off balance as the kayak tipped precariously. In a split second, the kayak was overturned, and Jake plunged into the icy embrace of the water. The shock of the cold was immediate and all-encompassing, numbing his senses as he struggled to orient himself. The orca, undeterred by the kayak's disarray, continued its aggressive pursuit. Jake could feel the orca's massive body brushing against him, its presence both immense and intimidating. Jake's mind raced as he tried to regain his composure. He knew that maintaining calm was crucial for survival. The water was frigid, its cold seeping through his wetsuit and numbing his extremities. The orca's relentless nudges and the sheer force of its movements made it clear that it was not merely curious. It was intent on either displacing or subduing him. The situation was dire and every second counted. With careful, deliberate movements, Jake began to swim toward the overturned kayak. The orca, sensing his intention, became even more aggressive, its massive body slamming against him with increasing force. Jake could feel the pressure of the orca's body as it nudged him away from the kayak, its breath coming in short, forceful bursts. He had to think quickly and use every ounce of his training to stay alive. The kayak floated a few meters away, its overturned hull partially submerged. Jake fought against the cold and the orca's aggressive behavior as he reached out, trying to grab the kayak's edge. The orca seemed to sense the urgency of his actions, and its aggression intensified. Jake's attempts to right the kayak were met with renewed forceful bumps, and the orca's jaws snapped dangerously close to his legs. Despite his fear and physical struggle, Jake's instincts took over. He grasped the kayak and began the painstaking task of flipping it back over. The orca's behavior was erratic, alternating between aggression and confusion. Jake used all his strength and focus to complete the maneuver and finally right the kayak. Once stable, Jake struggled to pull himself back aboard. The relentless orca continued to press against the kayak, its powerful tail propelling it through the water with intimidating force. Jake moved cautiously but with determination, avoiding provoking the orca while trying to regain control. With one final effort, Jake climbed into the kayak. The orca, recognizing the end of the immediate struggle, ceased its aggression but lingered nearby. Breathing heavily, Jake adjusted his position and grabbed his paddle. The immediate danger had passed, though he remained shaken. Paddling away as fast as he could, Jake's heart raced from the adrenaline of the encounter. The orca followed briefly before rejoining its pod, which receded into the distance. The once inviting icy water now felt hostile, a reminder of the wild's unpredictability. As Jake neared the shore, the waves seemed like obstacles, each ripple a reminder of the near danger. Determined, he paddled on, resolved to share his experience and the lessons learned. The coast brought relief, and Jake felt a deep gratitude and respect for the wild. The orca's aggressive behavior was a stark reminder of nature's power and unpredictability, reinforcing the delicate balance between human curiosity and wildlife's raw strength. The sun, a pale disk in the sky, cast a hazy glow over the calm sea off Japan. Hiro's boat, the Seika, glided through the water as he prepared for deep-sea fishing. With decades of experience, Hiro knew this was the prime time for finding large fish. His tanned, calloused hands gripped the fishing rod with practiced ease as he trolled through a promising area. Hiro cast his line, trailing it behind the boat. The rhythmic hum of the engine and the occasional seabird call were the only sounds breaking the sea's monotony. Hours passed with no sign of a catch, but Hiro remained hopeful for something extraordinary. Suddenly the rod jerked sharply. Hiro's heart raced as he braced himself against the sudden strain. The tension in the line was immense, and Hiro's arms strained to reel in the catch. The boat rocked with each tug, the weight below testing both the line and Hiro's resolve. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to keep the line taut. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as Hiro battled the unseen creature. The boat pitched and swayed, struggling against the creature's resistance. Hiro's muscles ached, but he pressed on, driven by the desire to discover what was on the other end of the line. His experienced crew watched with awe and concern, knowing this was no ordinary catch. As the strain on the rod peaked, Hiro saw the line slacken and then tighten with renewed vigor. His focus sharpened and his hands moved with precision. Finally, after an eternity of struggle, the shape of the creature emerged from the murky depths. Large and unmistakable, the monstrous figure took form, and Hiro's eyes widened in disbelief. The creature was an enormous squid, its tentacles sprawling like the limbs of some nightmarish beast from a forgotten myth. The squid's body was a dark, sinister hue, its skin glistening with an otherworldly sheen as it undulated in the water. Hiro's pulse quickened as he realized the enormity of the challenge he faced. The squid's tentacles, each one thick and curved, reached out with menacing grace, and Hiro knew that he was in for the fight of his life. With a final Herculean effort, Hiro managed to bring the squid closer to the boat. The creature's massive bulk broke the surface with a splashing heave, and for a moment Hiro and his crew stood stunned, staring at the sight before them. The squid's tentacles were a tangled mass of muscular strength and relentless hunger, each one equipped with rows of robust suction cups. In a desperate bid for freedom, the squid's tentacles began to lash out wildly, their strength palpable even from a distance. One of the tentacles, seemingly aware of the danger, shot out and wrapped itself around the side of the boat. The powerful suction cups clung with a vice-like grip, and the ship shuddered under the impact. Hiro's heart pounded as he realized the severity of the situation. Before Hiro could react, another tentacle snaked out with alarming speed, wrapping itself around his leg with a crushing force. The sudden vice-like grip sent shockwaves of pain through his body as the squid began to pull him toward the edge of the boat. Hiro's breath came in ragged gasps, his mind racing with the urgency of the moment. The squid's tentacle pulled him with almost inhuman strength, and the boat rocked violently as the creature's efforts to drag him into the water intensified. The crew sprang into action, their faces a mixture of fear and determination. They scrambled to find tools and weapons, anything that might help them pry the squid off Hiro. Knives were drawn, poles were grabbed, and every available hand was put to work in a desperate attempt to free their comrade. The boat was a cacophony of noise and movement, with each crew member fighting their own battle against the encroaching chaos. The struggle was a frantic, violent ballet. The squid, its beady eyes fixed with unrelenting focus, continued its assault with unyielding persistence. Its tentacles flailed wildly, battering against the sides of the boat with a force that threatened to breach the vessel's integrity. Each strike sent tremors through the ship, causing it to lurch and sway with every impact. Hiro, his leg trapped in the squid's grip, fought to maintain his balance. His hands, slick with sweat, struggled to hold onto anything stable as the boat continued to pitch and roll. The pain in his leg was excruciating, and he could feel the cold grip of the squid's suckers digging into his flesh. His thoughts were a blur of adrenaline and fear, his instincts guiding him through the chaos. The crew worked tirelessly, their hands working in unison to pry the squid's tentacles away from Hiro. Knives flashed in the dim light, slashing at the tentacle's sinewy grip with fierce determination. The poles were thrust with powerful thrusts, aiming to dislodge the squid's hold. Each strike against the tentacle was met with a violent recoil, but the crew persisted, driven by the desperation to save Hiro. The struggle continued, the battle between man and squid escalating with each passing moment. The boat groaned under the pressure, its wooden frame creaking with the strain. The crew's efforts were relentless, their movements a chaotic symphony of urgency and determination. Hiro's leg felt as though it were being slowly crushed, the pain intensifying with each tug of the squid's powerful grip. Finally, with a final coordinated effort, the crew managed to sever one of the squid's tentacles. The creature recoiled, its grip on Hiro loosening just enough for him to escape its clutches. The severed tentacle fell away, its limp, twitching remnants drifting away from the boat. The squid, wounded and enraged, retreated into the depths with a final furious flurry of its remaining tentacles. The boat rocked violently as the squid disappeared beneath the waves, leaving Hiro and the crew to grapple with the encounter's aftermath. Hiro's leg throbbed with pain, and he collapsed onto the deck, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. The crew, though shaken and exhausted, rallied to his side, their faces etched with relief and concern. The aftermath of the encounter was a mixture of shock and awe. Hiro's crew surveyed the damage, their eyes wide with the realization of what they had just survived. The boat bore the marks of the struggle. The battered sides and the scattered tools were evidence of the fierce battle that had taken place. Though battered and bruised, Hiro had a newfound respect for the ocean's depths. The encounter with the giant squid had been a reminder of the sea's untamed, unpredictable nature, a force that could turn even the most routine expedition into a fight for survival.